The Bible said in 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 16, it said God dwells in light that is unapproachable. So the first thing that comes out of God are rays of light. That's why God is clothed in light. And so when a man begins to journey into transfiguration, what happens is that his garments are changed. And he puts on light. So when he comes out, he becomes like the angels. At that level, earth can't trap him anymore. That's the realm where you can move according to the speed of your thought. At that level, you don't travel by any agency, natural agency. When you think, you are there because you have been glorified. It's a technology in God's presence. And we will grow in these technologies. Because, the subject we are looking at is very deep. It's deep. These are the real things of life. The reason we pursue things is because we are falling. Because if we were not falling, things would not have been a concern. That's why before God created Adam, he created everything he needed. Because our adventure on the face of the earth is to search God, is to seek God, is to contact God, and to carry measures of him. So in the cool of the day, the Bible said the voice of God came walking in the garden. And when Adam contacts him, Adam becomes more like him. Because the occupation of humankind is to study God. Explore God until you become God in fullness. Because when time stops, the measure of God you carry will become your eternal state. And that is what will determine our grading in Zion, our ranking in Zion. The extent to which you apprehended God in time, because your occupation on earth is to touch God. Keep touching and exploring him. Become like him. So that when time stops, you will represent that layer of God. So when you want to study the age of God in the cycles of eternity, you will look at creation. When you see a man who has not fully transfigured, it shows you a level, a realm in God. But you see, when you enter the throne room and you meet the elders, they are exactly like him. That's why they know the secrets of heaven. They can peek into the mind of God. They can tell you the intentions of God. They can tell you why God does what he does. Because they've journeyed in light to a point where nothing is hid from them. In fact, one of the elders looked at John when he was weeping in heaven. And he said, behold, the lion of the tribe of Judah. The root of David. Those were governmental issues in the courts of Abba. Because when they were discussing the fate of humankind, man is falling. Should they be eternally doomed? And God was talking to God. And God concluded in the meeting of God that man will not be given up on. That man should be restored. Now, that secret had not yet been known. Even a strong angel in heaven looked at John and said, there is no hope for man. He said, I saw a book written from within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And he said, I looked upon it and there was no hope for humanity. And John was crying in heaven. Because at that point, even the heavenly host have not been told. But an elder walked up to him and said, forget, that one is in the past. Where we go to in God, that's no longer the challenge. Man is safe. Don't worry, don't cry. The lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, he had prevailed. I'm talking from higher corridors in light. So transformation and transfiguration is actually the greatest purpose of existence. That's why intimacy becomes a prized commodity in the spiritual realm. Every spirit will stop you from joining in intimacy. Because he knows when you commune with God, you become your eternal reality. And so when we are looking at the subject of the fullness, the idea behind the subject is first of all to contain God. But it's beyond containing God. After containing God, you now express God. So this subject is deeper than miracles. It's deeper than signs and wonders. It's deeper than prosperity. Because prosperity is one strand in God. Miracle is one strand in God. Signs and wonders is one strand in God. So when you look at Jesus' life, we said the glory of Jesus was not the fact that he raised the dead. The glory of Jesus was not the fact that he turned water to wine. The glory of Jesus was the fact that he was able to complete the cycle of fullness. Because if you study Colossians chapter 2 verse 9, it said he pleased the Father that the fullness of the Godhead should dwell in him bodily. So Jesus contained the totality of the Godhead. But he didn't stop there. He was also able to manifest the fullness of God. Because in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3, in fact from verse 1 to 3, it said, God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophet, has in this last day spoken to us by his Son. And he said something. He said, who being the brightness of his glory. The glory of God is the full essence of God. So Jesus was able to reflect the fullness of God. On the strength of that, the Bible went further to say, he upholds all things. Because when you are able to walk in the fullness, you don't walk in miracles. You don't walk in signs and wonders. You don't walk in prosperity. You uphold all things. Because the power to uphold all things is trapped in the fullness. And so when you see a man who has mastered the journey of fullness, everything God represents and everything God does becomes his reality. He lives from there. If there is a need for miracles, he will work it. If there's a need for prosperity, he produces it. If there's a need for wisdom, he produces it. The reason is because the fullness of the realities of God are not just in him. He can manifest it. But we say, this is not a wish. There are definite governments in the spirit that regulate it. When you start studying scripture, you will discover two things, very important things: life and existence. If you understand life and existence, then walking with God and in the fullness of God will become easy. Because life is not existence. They are two different things. If you ask a biologist, he can tell you a cell is a unit of life. Because he feels life is trapped in a cell. Meanwhile, you were existing before your cell was given to you. He said before you were formed in your mother's womb, before cell, you are talking from... You know, sometimes when I read the scripture, I'm fascinated. That means science is standing on error. The knowledge, the whole, because medicine, everything is built from that basic foundational knowledge that you are a cell. And God is now saying, before you were formed in your mother's womb, before cell began to form, you existed. You are older than a cell. That means a cell gives you access to operate in a realm, but your reality is deeper than a cell. That's why life is not in the blood. When you check a man, man is the only being in the physical realm that has three lives. There is a life in his blood called bios. There is a life in his soul called suche. And there is a life in his spirit called zoe. Because he's older than time. But so there's a difference between life and existence. Life in the realm of God is connectivity and immortality. That's what life is. In the realm of God, your connection with God and the fact that you are not corrupt, because immortality is incorruptibility. So anything that is vitally fused to God and anything that is not corrupt in the realm of the spirit is called life. Life is not breath in the spirit. Existence, on the other hand, is permission to exist in a realm. So you can be connected to God and you can be immortal, but you are not yet permitted to exist in a realm. So man or existence is the allowance to participate in a context, whereas life is connectivity and immortality. That is why death in the spirit is also not cessation of existence. Death in the spirit is separation and corruption. So when the word death is used in the spirit, it means you are disconnected from God. It said to the man, you will die. And the man lived for another 900 years. Because the truth is you cannot stop existing. Because you came from God. The raw material for your creation came from God. So there's no way you can stop. You will always be because you have always been. You came from within God. But when God says death, it means you will be but not with me. And because you are not with me, you will be mutilated. So death is separation and corruption. And because death is separation and corruption, life is connectivity and immortality. And that's why 2 Timothy 1:10 says, the gospel has brought to light life and immortality, is to restore that which was lost. So what regulates life is a complex spiritual reality. And I'm saying this so that we will know how to press into God to manifest God. Because at salvation, every one of us has received God. In fact, John chapter 1 verse 16, he said of his fullness have we all received grace heaped upon grace. But Jesus did not only contain God, Jesus manifested God. So the subject of the fullness is not about containing. The subject of the fullness is about degree of manifestation. Because Paul said, henceforth know we no man after the flesh. But for you to be able to manifest God, who is the author of life, you need to understand the laws that regulate life. Because if you don't know the laws that regulate life, you will not know how to manifest him. And then even in the context where you are living, that gives you credibility for existence, also has a law that regulates it. In fact, there are 3 laws that govern existence. The first law that governs existence is the will of the Father. The second law that governs existence is the wisdom of the Father. The third law that governs existence is the power of the Father. You can be in God forever and ever, except by his authority. He said, now you go out. So what you call birth is not because a man met a woman. What you call birth is a sovereign decree from God. That's why I said you were not born by the will of the flesh. Because if God does not decree, that biological process can go on forever and ever, but no child will come out. That means existence begins when, by authority, the Father says, you now, this unit in me, from time immemorial, it's your time to go and experience this realm. And so by that decree, you now come out through a cell. And then you are walking here, you say you are a wise man. You now stand and say, there's no God. If there's God, why is this happening? You who you was, but you were not. Because you were in God and you didn't know. In fact, when they sent you here, they suspended your mind. They wanted you to learn afresh. You now come here, you are challenging wisdom. So a man who has not connected and submitted to the authority of God, he's alive but he's not existing. In fact, he will not strike a chord in eternity. That is what you call the book of life. The idea behind the book of life is those who walked under the government of existence. So God can check and say, okay, this one walked under my government by my wisdom and fulfilled my will. On the strength of that, he can come into me forever and ever. But there are many people who were authorized to come into this realm, but they cut off from the will of God. The Bible said concerning David that after he served the will of God, he rested. So the summary of David's existence was called the will of God. So it takes the authority of God, the wisdom of God, and the will of God for you to say you are in existence. But you see, when it has to do with life, it's a bit more intrinsic. It's a bit more personal. The laws that govern life are different. There are 3 laws that govern life. The same way there are 3 laws that govern existence. The law that governs life is number 1, energy. Everybody who is alive emits energy. What you call laughter is energy. What you call anger is energy. Everything you see can be calculated into energy. In fact, there are complex scientific research going on now to mutilate man through genetic engineering. And what they are trying to do is to manipulate energy. They can manipulate people's energy, and that energy can rule over them. So, at least in elementary chemistry, we know what they call laughing gas. If they release laughing gas and you enter the lab, even if they knocked you before you enter the lab, you will laugh. You can't help yourself. Even if they are flogging you, you will be laughing. Because when you can manipulate the energy. Life is ruled by energy. As we are sitting now, God's servant can say, come. That come means come in English, one thing. But in the language of energy, it means many things. If he says come, that come can mean I'm impressed with you. He can also say come, and that come can mean I'm angry with you. He can also say come, and that come can mean you are in trouble. And he can say come, and that come means wrong. Because why English is one, energy means many things. So if you are wise, when it says come, you will read his countenance. If the come means run quickly, you are in trouble. When he says come, say thank you and you will take off. Because he's saving. Energy is talking from a deeper realm than cognitive words. That's why you can call somebody's name is an insult. You can call somebody's name is respect. You can call somebody's name is praise. Because you talk from cognitive realm one way, but in energy terms, many ways. Because life is regulated by energy. And everything we call human relationship are energies distributed through different tributaries. The second law that governs life is consciousness. If a man loses consciousness, everything about his operation stops. Prayer, fasting, eating, singing, dancing stops. In fact, if a man is in coma, even the doctor will just manage him until he comes back to life. Because if consciousness is withdrawn, life stops.
I will not end like this. No.